Alright, hello. This is a project that I did for Regent University. I just wanted to share and get some people's thought on it. Basically, the project was to basically talk about film and theology, and I wanted to tackle films that deal with the big questions, the most meaningful questions ever asked by man, that we all wrestle with as part of our human condition. And while I maintain that a film's primary purpose must be to entertain its audience, most effective films, I think, can provoke profound thought and conversation in life. And questions like, why are we made? What is truth? Is there truth? These questions are often left within the walls of a church or a university philosophy classroom, but films are unique and important means for the artistic filmmaker to communicate timeless themes. As an art form, movies have been and continue to be rooted to philosophical and religious ideas that every human ponders. The primary purpose for film, as I said, must be that it is entertaining as an art form, foremost, for this is the reason that the audience frequents the movie theater. However, the artist or the filmmaker has a unique opportunity to encourage meaningful thought and discussion about fundamental ideas because the story of the film puts these questions in a scenario with characters and circumstances that dramatize and realize the issues. It's a very unique opportunity. In this way, a film can potentially demonstrate how certain ideas play out, as well as be more effective than perhaps a classroom setting within the walls of a church or university. When a learner has an emotional reaction to new stimuli, lessons presented by that stimuli get remembered better over time. Basically, Gordon and Eifler are arguing here that it may be more memorable and meaningful to the person if it is told through story, told through the film. Johnston, in his book Real Spirituality, says that movies, like life itself, are first experienced and then reflected on. Very interesting. Christopher Nolan, I was watching an interview with Christopher Nolan the other day, and he kind of talked about a similar thing, in that movies are meant to be taken in and experienced on a very, on a very surface level. And then, 5 minutes later, you kind of think, well, what was the whole thing about? What was the meaning behind that? It's a very, very interesting, unique phenomenon going on. George Miller said that the cinema storytellers have now become the new priests, and Martin Scorsese echoed the sentiment when he said that I can see great similarities between a church and a movie house. So regardless of the content of a movie, audience members are prone to reflect on it after viewing. And let's move on to the first example. Prometheus deals with questions very straightforwardly, very upfront. Basic origins questions. Where do I come from? Why was I made? Was I made? What's my purpose? Things of that nature. And it very much makes it a part of the plot. And let's go ahead and take a look at it.
Am I interrupting? Thought you might be running low.
Pour yourself a glass, bud.
Thank you, but I'm afraid it would be wasted on me.
I think we wasted our time coming in, don't you?
Your question depends on me understanding what you hope to achieve by coming here.
What we hope to achieve was to meet our makers, to get answers, why they even made us in the first place.
Why do you think your people made me?
We made you because we could.
Can you imagine how disappointing it would be for you to hear the same thing from your creator? May I ask you something?
Please do.
How far would you go to get what you came all this way for? Your answers. What would you be willing to do?
Anything and everything.
Do you feel that all the science in the world will never give us the answers we really want? Where we came from? Whether or not we're truly alone? I believe there's a place where every one of those questions could be answered. I believe I know where that place is. I need you to get me there.
So these questions represent the primary motivations for the characters as they travel across the galaxy to search out the solar system they believe to be the home of alien life. Now the primary characters, very interesting, an atheist scientist and a Christian scientist, both determined to discover the truth of who created humans and for what purpose were they created. Later, a character calls this quest a search to answer the most meaningful questions ever asked by man. The very climax of the movie is an attempt to get these questions answered, although the conclusion of the movie seems to resonate with certain agnostic sentiments. The film effectively explores the basics of these questions and provokes meaningful thought. In one scene between the two scientists, the atheist suggests that the Christian give up her faith in God since they had discovered proof of an alien species seeding life on Earth. But rightfully, the Christian scientist points out that the alien species must have had a maker themselves. And the atheist concedes the point. So very clearly we can see that there's real-world discussion going on within the movie itself. And even within the plot of the movie, it provokes these kind of thoughts within the viewer. So the audience's persevering reflection upon Prometheus will undoubtedly include musings upon these questions. Ridley Scott himself, the director, said that, "I'm really intrigued by those eternal questions of creation and belief and faith. I don't care who you are, it's what we all think about. It's in the back of all of our minds." And Ridley Scott seems to be more of an agnostic lately. He used to be very hardcore atheist, but he talked in one interview about how certain scientists he had talked to or read from had indicated a belief in a higher power. And so Ridley Scott has become more open to that idea, and Prometheus, I think, gets a bad rap because it doesn't answer every question. And of course, some movie that could be left open to sequels is prone to do that, of course. But I think this was intentional, actually, because the very last line of the movie is, "I'm still searching," meaning not all of our questions perhaps are answered in the minds of different people, and therefore, why should this film give all the answers to everything that it brings into its plot? So very interesting correlation there. But moving on, above all else, the film promotes this conscious search for answers, presumably so that individuals can know what they believe and why. Again, this is very human sentiment that speaks to a person's basic need to know one's purpose. As stated earlier, a film is unique in its ability to bring to life theological, philosophical, academic issues, including truth and worldview. Film and religion are deeply related activities in our contemporary culture. Both attempt to recreate the world and thereby offer us new ways of seeing, sensing, and experiencing life itself. And speaking of truth, worldview, and recreation, let's move to a clip from Inception.
I know it.
And what if you're wrong? What if I'm what's real? You keep telling yourself what you know. But what do you believe? What do you feel?
Guilt. I feel guilt. No matter what I do, no matter how hopeless I am, no matter how confused, that guilt is always there, reminding me of the truth.
What truth?
The idea that caused you to question your reality came from me.
You planted the idea in my mind. What are you talking about?
The reason I knew Inception was possible was because I did it to her first. We were lost in the
Okay, and most of us have seen the movie, and I apologize, I should have made clear that I'm going to be talking about the endings to a lot of these movies, so if you see a movie come up that you haven't seen and you would like to watch the movie and not have the ending ruined for you, by all means, see the movie first and then come back and watch this, and watch my explanation of it. So the part that I kind of cut off accidentally there at the beginning was Maul saying, "What if I'm what's real?" Because Maul is, in this case, a projection of Tom Cobb's mind in the dream world. And she goes on to say, "You keep telling yourself what you know, but what do you believe? What do you feel?" And Cobb's answer continues this line of thought in which he explains his plot to give her the idea that her world isn't real. I believe that Inception is encouraging the audience to question what they believe, even to examine the difference between knowledge and belief in one's own life. Indeed, the very last shot of Inception, of the spinning top, invites the question, is it real? We're not concerned with, is Dom Cobb happy? He is happy. He believes that these are really his children, that they aren't just projections of his own mind. But is it real? And we don't get an answer, really. There's different theories going on. I have my own theory. But I think that's what writer and director Christopher Nolan seems to be establishing, that truth and reality do matter to people. And that is important to question what we believe and know. And this kind of flies in the face of postmodern and relativistic lines of thought, which kind of argue that there is no real truth, it's all just in our minds, my truth isn't your truth, that sort of thing. This author Hibbs talks about Christopher Nolan, his films, arguing that he thinks that Nolan has been heavily influenced by the British philosopher Bernard Williams, and he writes, arguing that truth has an intrinsic and not merely an instrumental value. He writes that if we lose a sense of the value of truth, we will certainly lose something, and we may very well lose everything. So again, I think that Nolan is playing around with these ideas of truth, worldview, belief. Dom Cobb is not obsessed with being happy. He's obsessed with getting to the real world, and not getting to the real world, but getting back to his children in the real world, and at least what he believes to be the real world. Artists attempt to portray a touch of eternity that communicates potent truths about their subjects, and even to evoke certain feelings and responses in the viewer. Clearly, Nolan is tackling the human struggle with reality, belief, and truth in a very powerful way. And thus, he's encouraging meaningful thought. But in fact, Nolan had already toyed with these ideas in his very first Hollywood film, Memento. That film featured an unreliable protagonist who was confident of certain facts.
So you lie to yourself to be happy. There's nothing wrong with that. We all do it. Who cares if there's a few little details you'd rather not remember?
What the fuck are you talking about?
I don't know. Your wife surviving the assault. Her not believing your condition. The torment and pain and anguish tearing her up inside. The insulin.
That's Sammy. I told you about Sammy.
Yeah, right. Like you tell yourself over and over again. Conditioning yourself to remember. Learning through repetition.
Sammy let his wife kill herself. Sammy ended up in an institution.
Sammy was a con man. A faker. Well, I guess it can only make you remember the things you want to be true. Like old Jimmy down there.
He's not the right guy.
He was to you. Come on, you got your revenge. Enjoy it while you still remember. What difference does it make whether he was your guy or not?
It makes all the difference.
You're living a dream, kid. A dead wife to pine for. A sense of purpose to your life. A romantic quest that you wouldn't end even if I wasn't in the picture.
Do I lie to myself to be happy? In your case, Teddy. Yes, I will. I have to believe in a world outside my own mind. I have to believe that my actions still have meaning, even if I can't remember them. I have to believe that when my eyes are closed, the world's still there. Do I believe the world's still there? Is it still out there? Yeah. We all need mirrors to remind ourselves who we are. I'm no different.
You lie to yourself to be happy, we all do it. Again, Nolan is very clearly questioning beliefs that make us happy and encouraging people to acknowledge a truth outside of one's own mind. In Leonard's final monologue, he declares, I have to believe in a world outside of my own mind. Is the world still out there when I close my eyes? Is it still there? Yeah, we all need mirrors to remind ourselves of who we are. I'm no different. So basically, Nolan is making the argument that just because we close our eyes doesn't mean that the world disappears. What's going on in our own mind isn't reality. Our perception does not define reality. There is a reality outside of our own minds. And in a sense, we are each of us our own unreliable protagonist, or unreliable hero, as Leonard is in this Memento film. That idea in and of itself, I believe, is reason to give the viewer pause. Hibbs goes on to say that Nolan's films dramatize the conflicts between wish fulfillment and truthfulness, and illustrate the cost of conflating fantasy with reality. Christopher Nolan asserts that when it's well done, a film noir or a psychological thriller speaks to things inside you very clearly. It speaks to your fears, your neuroses, it speaks to your way of looking at the world. Again, Nolan is very clearly dealing with issues of worldview and psychology and philosophy. He does not seem so interested in conveying a particular message, only to encourage the viewer to think and come to his own conclusion. And that's the kind of films that we're looking at right now. A film's explication can be sheer joy in addition to giving theological insight, intellectual illumination, and dramatic engagement. When a film can draw a connection between its entertainment value and its illumination, I believe it has achieved the ultimate. Exorcism of Emily Rose poses another question. Is there a spiritual realm?
In the end, good will triumph over evil. Through my experience, people will know that demons are real. People say that God is dead. But how can they think that if I show them the devil?
Angels and demons, God and the devil. These things either exist or they do not exist. Are we all alone in this life? Or are we not alone? Either thought is astonishing. Do I really believe that this tragedy is the work of the devil? To be honest, I don't know. But I cannot deny that it's possible.
So, is the spiritual realm real? This question carries with it a host of other questions, including the existence of demons, angels, the devil, and God. Interestingly enough, Emily Rose makes the issue very much the subject of the court case that drives the narrative of the film. Juxtaposed against the scenes of the demon possession and exorcism, we have the prosecution in the court case basically calling forth witnesses which give more medical and scientific explanations, naturalistic explanations. The agnostic lawyer you just saw there is defending the Catholic priest charged with negligence in Emily's death, while the Protestant Christian, interestingly enough, that Protestant lawyer is charged with convicting the priest, arguing that Emily's condition is physical, so he's therefore taking the naturalistic stance and, I feel, embodying his role as a hypocritical lawyer, while the agnostic lawyer is forced to confront what he really believes about the spiritual. Scott Derrickson was the co-writer and director, and from what I gather, he is a bit of a agnostic mixed with, I think he believes in the spiritual realm, but he puts forth here together a very excellent example of didacticism. It's a contrast in views. In his book Story, Robert McKee encourages the screenwriter to present both sides of his or her argument, making the theme that much more powerful, and I believe that's what Emily Rose is doing here. Puts the existence of God and demons on trial, even in the midst of a demon possession movie. It ultimately encourages the viewer to ponder and discuss the reality of the supernatural, and brings the issue to life in injecting real-world arguments. Communal viewing of a film in a darkened theater and the lively discussion it inspires have become a more vital site of spiritual exploration and reflection than the mainstream church service. No longer is it simply a time of leisure or escapism, rather it has become a time of rest, centering, Sabbath, and sacrament. Clearly, films are capable of provoking meaningful discussion, and one could even argue that films can lead to spiritual epiphanies. Since feature films are significant cultural bearers of social, moral, and political values, watching them can be a valid form of religious practice. In David Fincher's Seven, we have the fundamental question of, am I good or am I evil?
How happy would it make you to hurt me with impunity?
That hurts my feelings. I would never.
You wouldn't, only because there's consequences. It's in those eyes of yours, though. Nothing wrong with a man taking pleasure in his work. I won't deny my own personal desire to turn each sin against the sinner.
Wait a minute, I thought all you did was kill innocent people.
Innocent? Is that supposed to be funny? An obese man, a disgusting man who could barely stand up, a man who, if you saw him on the street, you'd point him out to your friends so that they could join you in mocking him, a man who, if you saw him while you were eating, you wouldn't be able to finish your meal. And after him, I picked the lawyer, and you both must have secretly been thanking me for that one. This is a man who dedicated his life to making money by lying with every breath that he could muster, to keeping murderers and rapists on the streets.
Murderers.
A woman.
Murderers, John, like
A
yourself.
woman. So ugly on the inside that she couldn't bear to go on living if she couldn't be beautiful on the outside. A drug dealer, a drug-dealing pederast, actually. And let's not forget the disease-spreading whore. Only in a world this shitty could you even try to say these were innocent people and keep a straight face. But that's the point. We see a deadly sin on every street corner, in every home, and we tolerate it. We tolerate it because it's common. It's trivial. We tolerate it morning, noon, and night. Well, not anymore. I'm setting the example. And what I've done is going to be puzzled over and studied and followed forever.
Yeah. Delusions of grandeur.
You should be thanking me.
So in David Fincher's Seven, the theme of human depravity is on full display, and though the theme is interestingly enough spoken in monologue by the villain, I believe the movie's tone, plot, and climax, particularly, seem to resonate to a limited degree with the killer's logic. And indeed, the depravity of man is a fundamental idea in Judeo-Christian theology. Again and again, Scripture says that man is desperately wicked, and there's no hope apart from God. But Seven offers no salvation, and however does seem to acknowledge that perhaps we're not all good. Perhaps we're all selfish at our core, and if our intentions are always selfish, is there any redemption for us? In any film that seeks to connect with its viewers with regard to the human condition, theological criticism is both appropriate and even necessary. Seven certainly provokes thought on the human condition, and though it does not speak of redemption, Gran Torino does. Am I redeemable?
Any swamp rats in there?
I didn't think your ass would have came.
Shut up, Goop. Go ahead and pull those pistols like miniature cowboys. Go ahead.
So where's Tao at?
Tao's got not 1 second for you.
Bitch.
Kind of jumpy, aren't we? A light? Me. I've got a light.
So the movie Gran Torino is very much about a man who is consumed with guilt, pride, and prejudice. Walt seems to believe that there is no real hope for him, no redemption to be had. However, in the last act, he confesses his sins to the priest, except of course for the fact that he had killed an unarmed man in Vietnam. That's the thing that he kind of holds back that seems to be burdening him. And in this scene, while saying a Hail Mary to atone for his sins, he redeems himself by sacrificing himself for the sake of the new friends he's made. Director Clint Eastwood intends, I believe, there to be no doubt about this moment, with Walt falling in the form of a crucified Christ and the blood dripping into the palms of his hands. Walt's behavior underscores the claim that the most morally ugly figures can be redeemed. This is also the meaning between the tension between Walt's bigotry and his sacrifice. Even the most wretched individual, ugly in word and deed, is capable of reaching redemption. It is an important and innovative Christian argument that the lowliest man is capable of tragedy. Eastwood seems to be saying that man can indeed be redeemed of his crimes, and the audience is left with the hope that the death of another can act as salvation for the many. Clearly, theological and philosophical questions belong in the movie theater, but the film must first of all be entertaining and high quality, otherwise the message will be cheapened. The film must be worthy of the meaningful issues that it seeks to elevate. Braveheart and We Were Soldiers author says that I want to walk out of a theater and think because of what I just experienced, my life will never be the same. I think everybody wants that. Alright guys, this was my first attempt at Prezi. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and let me know what you think. Thanks.